I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. I'm super excited. This is our very first Lunch and Learn specifically for women. And just recently, I was at an Inspiring Women event for some of the other industry leaders that we partner with. And I got very inspired at that. I'm like, this is what we need to be doing for our ladies. And so we did do a Mary Poppins event. We went to the Mary Poppins event. Did you like that? Very awesome. So we'll do a combination of fun things like that and lunch and learns. We're going to give you something that you can write on any suggestions that you have for other topics that you would like to hear more about. But let me give you a brief overview of our time together. My name is Mary Thompson, for those of you who don't know me. And for those of you who brought a guest, actually, I want to thank our guest and those who brought a guest for coming. So you, on your way out, grabbed a Psychology of Retirement or Psychology of Money book, and then also Alfie's book as well. Okay? And if you're new to us, you might also be curious about our Alfie has a radio show and a TV show, and that information is on the bookmark as well. All right, so today, we want to create an environment for us to connect with other inspiring women, learn strategies from industry experts, address financial challenges that women face, and establish at least one financial goal so that you can take the next step to achieve it. What's the purpose of coming to something like this? Is to go away with something that you can apply to your life. So I'm hoping that we're sharing enough valuable information with you that you can apply something. Our speakers, I'm just moderating this. Up after me is going to be Curtis, and this is Curtis. And if you've met Curtis already, you probably have done e-money with him. It's a very exciting program that we've recently added when he first came on board. He's been using it for 7 years. Genuinely excited about that. It's going to be a game changer for how we plan for our clients. Then Bob is going to be speaking next. He's with a company called Cumberland Trust. For those of you who may know, about a year ago, we partnered with Advisors Excel and also Merchant. They bought part of our business, and they had relationships, and so that gives us good exposure to other people as well. And Bob was one of the other relationships. He works for a trust company, and what's unique about them is they are corporate trustees, but they don't manage the money. So what that means to you is that your heirs would still be able to work with us, with our team on the investment management side, and Bob and his team on the fiduciary side of things as well. So that's a unique thing, because a lot of trust companies, you have to move all your money over there. So it gives you the ability to stay with us. And then we have an incredible, Bob introduced me to Shelley and Linda and their team, and they have a company. I'll be introducing them in just a little bit, but so Shelley, she and her team will be speaking in a little bit about some of the services that they provide. You know, I was thinking about this. One reason I think it's so important for them to be sharing, we recently had a recent widow, and Daniela actually caught this. We realized that somebody was trying to take advantage of her, a family friend, and they were trying to get named as beneficiary and trying to take over things, and it rose a red flag for us. We had to call the state. They sent somebody out. We had to file a SEC report and all that. And we were right. Daniela and Alfie were right. This person had millions of dollars at stake that he was trying to take from her. So it does happen, and so I'm glad that we have an incredible team that recognizes those red flags, but being vulnerable is a real thing. So I want to ask you all a question. How do I do this, Seven?
That's on the right side.
On the right side, okay. There you go. So we're going to be talking about a lot. That gave you a big overview, but I want to get a discussion going here. What is one challenge that you have faced as a woman when it comes to managing money or dealing with monetary topics? What are a couple of challenges that you've had in your lifetime?
Yeah. Guess we all do well. No.
back in the day, I was denied a credit card, and I said, the only reason you're not giving me a credit card is because of my age and that I warned the guy that's sitting right next to me would pass this. And I mean, that's changed quite a bit, but back in the day, when I go, Nazareth, that was a job.
And you know what? I did not know that. In fact, I had that in my presentation because I was shocked when I found that statistic. I'm going to share it with you. I'll just share it with you now. But it was in 1974. There was a new act. Prior to that, women could not get credit or open a bank account without a man to co-sign for her.
Sure.
50 years ago, okay? That was during all of our lifetime. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I was blown away when I did not know that. I was, a child at the time. I was like 10 or something. Yes.
Mary, still today with the credit card subject, even though you're joint on the account with your husband, his name is first, so he's the primary.
Yeah.
And so when you're calling in, you can talk about it, but then if first thing they ask, well, is Jim available? Can I get his permission to talk to you? That is the most crazy thing. And that happens with all the our Bank of America parents, Citicorp, your Fed parents.
Same.
Now, my husband, the only one, is our Discover card. I'm the primary.
Who is it for discovering age? Why would you have your own? Each of you had your own?
Well, we didn't. I mean, we're 43 years of marriage, and we just started that once together. We're together. We're not joint. But as I learned, joint or separate might be good, without the divorce.
So a couple of other things that are interesting, how widowhood plays into managing your financial affairs. I was shocked at this one also. The average age of a woman becoming a widow is 59. I just turned 60 this year, and I want to share a brief story with you. A good friend of mine, she lives on the east coast of Florida. She was in my office recently, and she was telling me her husband passed away, I believe it was Christmas Eve last year. Sweet, sweet lady, she's my age. And she said to me, Mary, my financial advisor had known for 5 years that my husband was ill and passing away. And when I went in to meet with him, I had no idea. I didn't qualify for his Social Security. The ex-wife is getting the pension. The children are named as beneficiaries. She said, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to make ends meet. So for 5 years, this financial advisor had the opportunity to prepare my friend for what was imminent. And that's one thing that I really like about what Curtis is going to be sharing today is going through all the different scenarios. What if this happens? He'll just give you a highlight, but it's something you can personally sit down with him so that you know the what ifs that might happen to you. But I thought that was a very young age, and many of us in this room have been widowed. And then life expectancy, I don't know if you can see this, but women, we average to be 79 years old. Men average 73. And typically men are older when they get married and they get women a little bit younger. So we have several years that we are a widow, potentially. And globally, women globally have 75-year life expectancy. So we have a much longer life expectancy than the entire world. Divorce, that impacts us as well. This was another staggering thing I had not thought about before. But some of the things that happen in divorce, you can lose your health coverage if your husband has that. On average, 115,000 women lose their insurance every year because of divorce. I did not know that. And then also, over time, divorced women accumulate 77% less wealth than a married woman at the same age. I want to share with you Sandy's story. And Sandy is actually Alfie's mom. And if you've read Alfie's book or you've watched our TV show, you probably know this story. But The reason that Alfie is so passionate about helping you ladies is because of what he experienced as a child. His mom was a teenager when she had Down. She was a teenager when she got married. He had Alfie and his sister. And when Alfie was about 5 years old, Sandy divorced her older husband and left in the middle of the night, left California, took a flight all the way to Miami to go to stay with the aunt. And so Alfie ended up growing up then in Miami. But because of that, his mother did not have some of the benefits. She was a teenage mother, didn't have an education, a formal education, had a lot, divorced. So the odds were definitely stacked up against her. A little bit more about Alfie's story, about why he's so passionate about helping children, is when Alfie was in, I believe it was the 4th grade, his mom could no longer care for him and his sister. So she made the hard decision and had the kids go to the United Methodist Children's Home on the East Coast. We try to do a lot of things for them because they're doing great work for children that are abandoned or whatever the case may be. But anyway, so later on, Alfie was able to get back together with his mom, and then when his father passed away, that's when life changed for Sandy, because then Sandy started receiving Social Security from her older husband, a benefit for the children. And so he saw what just even having Social Security, the difference that can make in a woman's life. And that's what gave him the financial, hope for the future. And that's why he's so passionate. In fact, I love to tell this story that we had a client that came to us not too long ago, and they said, Alfie, the reason I want to work with you is because when I worked with my other financial advisor, when I'd ask a question, he would always turn to my husband and give the answer to him. And she said, Alfie, you look me in the eye and you talk to me. When I have a question, you're talking to me. Okay, and I think we can all resonate, and that's how we feel about working with Alfie. Time spent out of the workforce. Women spend up to 12 years out of the workforce, and what are we doing? We're probably raising children or taking care of elderly parents. Who here is either taking care of elderly parents or raising grandchildren? Or I know my mother of 90 years old just is living with me and my husband, so I think a lot of us might be in that same camp. We're caring for other generations, so we're kind of the sandwich, middle of that sandwich. So there's an earning gap that happens, and then you get lower Social Security before it, or because of that. Here's a real quick scenario. I was curious, okay, what does just even 5 years out of the workforce look like for a woman? So here's a scenario. A guy and a gal both graduate from college at age 21. They start working. I put them as a banker. And so they're making the same salary. After 5 years of working, she takes 5 years off to raise kids or whatever. Both are contributing 5% of their salary into a 401k and earning 6% annual return. By the time they're 65, just that 5-year gap of not earning and putting money into retirement, he has saved $822,000 and she has saved $499,000. That's the difference of $300 and some odd dollars. So a 5-year gap. So ladies, the reason I'm saying this is you have some unique challenges and we're here to help you out. And here's that stat that you had mentioned. Just 50 years ago, women needed a male to sign to open up a bank account or apply for credit. So that changed in 1974. Now, here's where we are today. Fast forward. 39% of the businesses out there are owned by women. Employment, 12.2 million people are in the workforce because of women. 2.7 trillion of revenue is coming in because of women business owners. The other thing is that 51% of the personal wealth in the U.S. is wealth owned by women. That's $22 trillion. And if we go forward to 2030, about $30 trillion is going to be in the hands of women. And do you know why that is? It's because there's a lot of wealth transfer going on. So you might have an older generation and they're passing away and it's passing on to you. So all that to say, money is a moving target, and you have different seasons in your life, and there's different challenges, there's different opportunities, and we want to help get you to and through that because what's important to you is important to us. I must mention this other real quick thing, that if you're working with Alfie, you have the leg up on the 88% of the women out there, but women investors investing in the stock market, only 22% are invested in the stock market. And then only 22% of the women feel confident about their retirement. So here's bottom line for my presentation. I want you to be among the 22% that feels confident in retirement. And so today I want you to acquire knowledge, find support, that's what we're here for, and then gain confidence in your financial future, okay? So I do want you to take, if there's anything that you feel like, gosh, this is something I really need to take at heart, I want to talk to somebody about it, jot it down if there's anything that we can do to help you out. So what is one financial goal you want to achieve, and what's one step you should take? That's when you leave here, hopefully you can take that away. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to all of our featured speakers, and starting with Flores.
Thank you, Gary. Everybody give Mary a round of applause there for pointing off. So I am one of the financial advisors here with Advantage Retirement Group, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on a software that we use called eMoney. And I always say eMoney is really two different things. One, it's a way for you to keep track of really all aspects of your financial life, whether it's income, expenses, all your financial accounts, banks, brokerage accounts, real estate properties, all of it goes into this website. And then what we're able to do is take all of that information and build comprehensive financial plans, income plans. That could be, if we could plan for early death, we can prepare for large purchases, long-term care, really all walks of life that we want to make sure that we're including in our plans. So we go to the next slide here. This is actually what the software will look like in the client portal. And what I kept running into probably 7 years ago is I'd meet with these clients and they'd say, well, Kurt, I had everything on an Excel spreadsheet, or I have it on a piece of paper. I had one client have it on a napkin, literally on a napkin, his whole life. And then I say, well, what happens if you lose the spreadsheet, or you lose your napkin? You know what will happen? He says, well, I'm going to be in some trouble. I'm probably going to forget where everything's at. And then, a lot of times one of the spouses is in charge. The other one doesn't really know what's going on. I said, well, what if your wife doesn't know? Or what if your husband doesn't know where everything's at? Well, again, we're going to have some trouble. So I went out and said, well, what's the solution? What's a software out there that we can use to help, my clients? And that's how I ended up finding eMoney. And you'll see here, really the magic of the software is this add an account option. So say you use Bank of America, for example, you can actually go into Bank of America and say, it's okay to send a data feed to my eMoney account really every single day. It's going to update about 9:30 a.m. in the morning or so. And then it's going to auto-populate all these financial accounts. So see, cash can go in here, credit cards can go in here, my investments that we're managing or you had outside of our management, all of those get fed into this wonderful website. Even property, I would say, real estate's one of them. The other one, a lot of valuables. I had a client, she's like, I had a really expensive seashell collection. I said, are you sure it's expensive? She said, yes. Include the seashells in there, right? So for the client, it's a way to see all of your net worth. For us as your advisor, we get to see your total net worth as well when we're making investment decisions. That's very important. And then secondly, it's also for your beneficiaries, right? Those people that call in and say, hey, I'm the son, I'm the daughter of, our client. I don't know where mom and dad's accounts are at. I don't know what banks they use. I don't know if they have a life insurance policy. All of that, again, can get added into this site, not only for you, the client, for you, us, the advisor, and also the beneficiary. And then I put together a case scenario here, if you want to go to the next slide. Mary kind of mentioned, this is something that we see quite often. So let's say the husband is age 68. You have the wife, she's age 62. Let's say this is a second marriage. They haven't been married for that 10-year mark, so she's not going to get the Social Security. She's not going to collect on his pension, right? Let's say he's got 3 kids. He wants to actually leave some of that money behind for the children, and she's going to get about roughly 25% of that money. Let's say she's got 2 children as well, and leaving some money behind for them, that's important to her, right? So if we go and click the next slide here, we're going to assume they have about $1.3 million in assets, right? Let's say he's getting about $83,200 in income from his Social Security and pension. Let's say they're spending about $75,000 a year roughly in expenses and retirement, and we're going to assume their investments are going to grow at a conservative 4%. We always shoot for higher than that, but I think 4%, we usually feel comfortable modeling that. And Derek, if you can go into E1 real quick for me. So you have a handout as well, looks like this one here. So this is what I call kind of like the base case scenario. And Derek, you can go into cash flow there on the right-hand side for viewing. Click right here. And then tap the and the A. All right, so mine might look a little different, but your handout's going to be something similar that I actually give the clients. After we sit down to meet, they're going to look something like this. And this is an England plan. Yeah, you can scroll down a little bit. So this is kind of the base case scenario, happily ever after, situation. Let's say they both live a nice long time. His income's pretty much covering all of their expenses right now. The investments are kind of gravy on top. They can take vacations, they can spend how they want. And you're gonna see E-Money gives me a % chance of success. How it gets that number essentially is it's gonna run about 1,000 different scenarios. It's called a Monte Carlo simulation. A lot of people probably heard that word before. Throw it around. But what it does is basically say, here's the best case, here's the worst case, and here's the average case, and then gives me a statistical chance that this plan is going to be successful. In this case, as the advisor, it's kind of easy. Everything looks great right now, 100% chance of success. But we know when we sit down and have those conversations with you guys that, okay, well, if you're not getting that income, that might be an issue, right? Everything might look okay now, but let's see what happens if he were to pass away, say tomorrow. What does that look like? And that's kind of scenario 2 in your handout here. We go from now 100% chance to success to 0. We're not going to make it, right? And that's a huge concern, a big red flag for us as the advisor, right? You're going to see here expenses stay the same roughly, but now we're withdrawing, $75,000 a year, and there is no income to cover that, right? So us as the advisor, we'd have a couple different options, right? My mind, of course, first is going to go maybe life insurance. Second is we might need to talk about leaving more money behind from the beneficiaries, right? We might need to make those adjustments. But let's see if we can fix it with life insurance is, what I want to do. Now, E-Money has the capability, it's actually over here in the solvers, to take this situation specifically and tell me, hey, how much life insurance would be needed in this case to go from 0 to 100% chance of success, right? So I ran all those numbers and put that together, and it's a scenario 3 in your handout now. So if we had about a roughly $250,000 to a $300,000 maybe life insurance policy, we go from now 0 to 100%. I always joke around, I probably sleep less at night than you guys about your money. I'd be still tossing and turning though with this life insurance policy if we were gonna be pulling it all out of principle, the $75,000 we need to make. So if we scroll down, Devin, we know that we still need to generate income off of this money. We don't want to pull $75,000 again out of principle. We use different products. We have annuity products. We have structured note products that pay a great income. I use 2 different ones that we use confidently. We think we can generate about $45,000 a year in income. You probably hear about the 4% rule a lot. It gets talked about. I think Dave Ramsey talked about it quite a bit. But if we didn't do anything and we just pulled it out of principle, you'd be drawing almost 8% of the account. Right? That's way too high. That's where I'd be tossing and turning at night, worry about you guys. This allows us to draw only about 4%. We're now back in that rule. We're generating the income we need, happily ever after. We're back on track. And that's where we need to have these conversations with the husband and the wife before something happens. To Mary's point, to Daniela's friends, all these people that have come in and said these things. We're now able to, Alfie uses his sweet, charming voice to speak with confidence. That's his thing, I just make that joke, he's not here today. So, but this gives us that confidence, and hopefully you guys that confidence to spend that money and know that we have your best interest in mind. So, any questions on this? That was our last slide there. I was probably only them.
I missed the part where you said on that. Did you say you put the money in notes?
Yeah, we use a structured note product. It pays about 7.7% as of today. That's one of the, when you have us as an advisor, we have a few different income products that we like to use. That's one that's very popular. Many of our clients use something like that. And then we have an income annuity through Investors Heritage that I actually ran this scenario through, and it came out to about $21,000 or so. We can actually generate it on about roughly $300,000 policy. So, but that's kind of the in the weeds stuff that we would get in, in a one-on-one conversation with the client. Yeah.
Because everything is so dynamic that you were talking about, if you have all the data points that you need, How frequently does the e-money program update or maintain?
Yeah, daily. So and that's part of when we do our annual review. Yeah, we've probably sat down twice or so since you've been since I've got on here. But I try to have e-money always up in the meeting, so we're double checking our numbers, right? It's a blueprint. Things change. Maybe you're spending more than you think you are. Maybe you're spending less than you think you are. We can make adjustments to those numbers in those appointments, but the account values and everything, because they're linked already, those are getting updated daily with our plan. So it's kind of the beauty of it.
I do have no.
Yeah.
Is this free?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a client of ours, we are covering the cost of this. There's no cost to it. I always say too, some people love it, some people hate it, especially with the cybersecurity part of it. I get that a lot, right? Two things with it. It's what's called a data-only website. So there is only basically numbers in there. You're not able to make trades. I'm not able to move money around in your bank accounts. There's no full account numbers. We don't put social security numbers. Again, none of that, I say kind of financially incriminating data, it doesn't go into that site, right? Any other questions? All right. Bob, you ready, man? Yeah.
I'm just gonna pull this over. I'm gonna sit to talk. Great job so far. Wonderful stories. There you go. Great. Well, thanks for coming out, everybody. I'm Bob Carville with Cumberland Trust. I live right down the street. I cover Florida for Cumberland, but my wife I live here in Fort Myers, and you live down Daniels, just east of 75. So it's nice to see everybody, and what a wonderful turnout. And I think we should give Mary a great hand for putting this all together. Good job, Mary. So, great information so far. I spent my whole career in that part of the business almost, doing retirement planning and asset management with Fidelity, Schwab, money manager for a few years, and then I ran business development for a trust company in upstate New York. So I've been in the money business for years, and fell in love with it when I read the Warren Buffett book when I was in college, and I wasn't doing my engineering work. I should have been doing that, but I was reading about Warren Buffett, and it kind of got me excited about investing. So this is all great stuff. The purpose of doing a case study that I wanted to just go through quickly today was the idea of, like, people start throwing terms around, wow, what does this mean? Social Security changes, life insurance, all these solutions, like, it gets confusing when you start hearing different terms. So I thought I'd go through a simple case study that we just recently went through this summer with a client down in Naples. And it involved everybody. It involved the people here today, because we needed a professional fiduciary and they needed a new trustee. And their money manager started the process by recognizing that they might need to make some changes in their plan. As I go through this, all I want you to take away from this is on the back side of the colored handout on Cumberland, that is a business model that I find very helpful for clients to be aware of, because it gets so confusing when you talk to different people in the financial services industry. But this really answers the question of, like, who should I put on my team, to help me manage my money the rest of my life? And if you're married, that's great. If you're not married, no problem. But who should be on the team? And wealthy families, and I use that term loosely. I mean, wealthy could be $1 million or $500,000 or $1.5 million, because you have enough money to live on the rest of your life. We manage trusts that had $100, $200, $300 million in it. So wealthy is different to everybody. So when I use that term, I'm just referring to wealth management. Let's just say 500 to $1 million and up in assets, where you got significant money, nice house probably, maybe more than one property. You may have millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. But everybody has the same players on their team to help them manage through the scenarios of life. Usually, there's going to be a financial advisor involved. That's where we are today with Mary's group here at Advantage. They will help you manage assets in any type of account, including a trust, because of our model, we'll talk about in a minute. And they will help you with IRAs, individual accounts, brokerage accounts, unique situations, running your retirement numbers. Curtis went kind of fast there. I used to do that with Fidelity for a living. It's great stuff, because the retirement software today is so good. You can model in different changes. What if somebody dies? What if a Social Security check goes away? What if a pension goes away? I was in Rochester, New York, and Kodak went bankrupt. And believe it or not, pensions can go away. And Kodak had 3 big pensions, and 2 of them disappeared at bankruptcy. So pensions can go away. And with second marriages today, it's really important to understand that pensions can go away unexpectedly sometimes, because sometimes people don't realize that their spouse picked single life only on an annuity option, or when they retired, they took a pension, and single life only means it's for that person's life. And then they get remarried and their life is wonderful because they have all this income, but then all of a sudden that spouse dies, and that single life only pension for $3,000 a month because they were a teacher somewhere, that's gone overnight. That pension stops at death sometimes. And I've had clients experience that, and they come in and they go, Bob, I didn't know this was going to happen to me. I'm talking about widows. And I said, what happened? They go, well, I lost my husband's pension when he dropped dead of a heart attack on the golf course, and I didn't know I was going to lose a Social Security check when he died, So that stuff happens, and that's why you want to start working and engage in the planning process as early as possible. And then the nice thing about these tools is you can come in every 3 months, 6 months, and update your modeling. So that's what a financial advisor does for you, if that makes sense. Okay, so they're going to focus on asset management, making sure your retirement plan is solid. Usually there's going to be an accountant involved. If you're good with taxes and you want to use software, great. We use a CPA, my wife's a realtor. I find great value in a professional CPA because they know the laws inside and out. The laws change every year. So usually there's an accountant involved, and the estate planning attorney is going to be somebody who helps you with your estate planning documents. Estate planning, does anybody have a definition in their head about what estate planning is that they want to share? Because over here you got financial or retirement planning with your financial advisor. All estate planning means is your estate is what the IRS makes you well, you don't do it because you're dead, but the IRS makes your survivors add up your assets when you die. And that could be houses, life insurance policies, believe it or not, sometimes go into estate valuation. All your IRAs, all your investment accounts, your cars, you add it all up. It's $1.3 million when mom died or dad died. That's the value of the estate. Okay, estate is what you own. Okay, that's all it is. It can be anything, artwork, houses, investment accounts. So estate attorneys, now the key about estate planning is when you die, there's really only about 3 or 4 places, and this you might want to take a note on this. There's only 3 or 4 places your money can go when you die. It's either going to go to family and friends, it's either going to go to charity. I always drew 3 boxes at the bottom of the page, you remember fines, or it's going to the IRS. Yeah. Okay, either through probate fees, or if you had a significant estate, we're talking millions of dollars going to the IRS if you don't do good estate planning. So that's what estate planners do. They help families figure this out. Where do you want your money to go when you die? Sometimes that involves trust work. It might not need to be in trust work because you got beneficiaries on your IRAs. You might just want it to go to your children and you're done with it, that kind of thing. So these are the players that you would want on your team. It's going to be a good, I always called it the quarterback. Some people say, I don't like using that word. I use that word, okay? The quarterback, like Josh Allen, I love the Buffalo Bills. I'm from upstate New York. Josh runs the show, is on the field. Let's not like Josh Allen. Yeah, who doesn't want Josh Allen, right? It's like he runs the show, okay? He's in the huddle calling the plays. So your quarterback is Advantage Retirement, okay? Because they meet with you regularly. They know what the cash flow looks like. They know where your assets are. They meet your kids, okay? Then you have an estate attorney that's helping you put together a will, healthcare proxy, healthcare surrogate, power of attorney. These are all critical documents that you should have in your life. And then you should also have maybe a living will. What if I have a stroke and I can't make decisions? Who's going to make decisions for me on my medical care? That's part of the health surrogate concept. And then they're also, if you need trusts, if you need trust planning, and they say, let's move this into a living trust, or, let's put a trust in your will. That's what the estate attorney will help you figure out, okay? So that's what an estate attorney does, and there's a lot of good ones. Mary could introduce you to some. We introduce people to attorneys all over the country. But those are the players, and then, of course, the last one I just put over here is a trust company. If you're going to have a trust, you might want to be aware of what a trust company does, because sometimes it helps to use a corporate trust company versus an individual, because an individual can be a trustee also, okay? So as we talk through this real quickly, I just want you to be aware of, think about, and the purpose of this case study is so I can point back to this and say, if you see how these people all work together, that's the concept, okay? So if you have any questions, just shout them out as we go. This is very conversational. This was a real case. A lady came to us through her financial advisor in July, She lived down in Naples, and what happened, what triggered her aha moment was her friend, who was her power of attorney, came to visit her, okay, in May or June. And she had a big aha moment. And that aha, we all go through it. Maybe, somebody dies of a heart attack, maybe somebody was in a nursing home, but we have these aha financial moments during our life. She went to her financial advisor the day that lady left and said, I think I have a problem. And he goes, what's your problem? And she goes, well, I just realized my power of attorney and my successor trustee in my living trust is my best friend, who I've known for years. But she just went through breast cancer, and she is aging rapidly, and I can't believe how much she's changed in the last 3 years. And I got her named as my go-to person in all my documents. And even though she's a year younger than me, I think I'm going to outlive her for sure because she doesn't look good. So that was her aha moment. Like, okay, we better think through this, like what's going to happen. So that was her moment. Now, so what that led to was a conversation with her because she was single, never married, no children, in good health, living in Naples, 74-year-old female. Real good asset base, 1.6 million that she had already moved into a living trust. A living trust is just a trust, a bucket of money that you set up while you're alive, living trust. And usually the husband and the wife or an individual can be the trustee over that bucket. And a trust account is just a box. And you take money out of your brokerage account over here, your bank account, and you put it in this account called the Jones Family Trust. And if you're Mrs. Jones or Mary Jones, you're the trustee on this while you're alive. That's a common scenario. Or Mr. and Mrs. Jones are the trustees for the Jones Family Trust. But anyway, she had a living trust set up years ago. And usually people set up trusts for a variety of reasons. One of the main reasons is let's get it into a trust to avoid probate fees. And it's very private and it's very easy to administer and get at those assets after death, rather than going through a long, drawn-out probate process in the courts. Okay, so that's why a lot of people will set up living trusts, and their attorney will say, put the house and put that $2 million brokerage account that you have at Fidelity or Schwab. Let's get it into a living trust. It's going to be much easier to manage when the first spouse dies, and even when the second spouse dies. So that's pretty common. So she already had done that basic planning with her attorney. So she had a living trust, and her financial advisor was managing that, and she was the trustee. So Denise was her own trustee. That's called a self-trustee or an individual trustee. She had a good-sized IRA kicking off required minimum distributions, and she had a beautiful home in Naples, about $800,000, and then, of course, a nice car, furniture, personal belongings, really nice jewelry, etc. So you add it all up, I think we were at about maybe 3.5 million ballpark assets there. That would be the value of her estate, okay? Then she already had a will in place. She already had a living trust in place. But she knew she might need to make changes. That's what triggered her event. The power of attorney, healthcare surrogate were her best friend, who we were talking about, and not in good health all of a sudden. And she wanted to age in her home when I asked her, because, I've gone through dementia with my family. I was a caregiver, like Mary asked. My mom died of dementia after 2.5 years in a nursing home. My aunt died, so I know dementia very well. I was actually trained in dementia because I worked for a unique financial company just before we moved to Florida in 2020. All of our clients had dementia. That was pretty interesting because we had to go visit them all the time and make sure that they were doing okay. But we would become the power of attorney and manage the assets for these wealthy families, that had $4 and $5 million that had dementia, and where the spouses died, and now they're in assisted living, etc. So we were very well trained in dementia, and just not to scare you, but if you look to your left and you look to your right now, that's 3 of you. The Alzheimer's Association, because we're living so long, the Alzheimer's Association tells us that 1 in 3 of us are going to have dementia during our lifetime and need a higher level of care. So that it's just the reality, and that's with us today. We're living a long time, and my wife thinks I have dementia already. Well, where are my car keys? I told you, it's your purpose here. So, anyways, that's the reality of the situation. So the estate documents, she'd already done a really good job. She was a good planner, but here's some of the things. When she called, I started asking her some basic questions. Do you understand what a successor trustee is in your trust? She goes, well, I think I've named my friend, but no, tell me more. So here's some of the things that you should be thinking through as you do your estate planning, okay, and you're working with your advisor. Okay, the first question always, and Curtis just handled this, I called it the "Am I okay?" You know, don't worry. I'm kind of being crude here, but don't worry about your family and your kids until you're okay. All right, you take care. You know, like in an airplane, how they tell you if the oxygen mask to drop, you know, mom and dad, put yours out first so you can then help your kids. So make sure you're okay first. Meet with an advisor. You are a yellow, let's say, here at Advantage. They can update your Social Security information. We've just had 2 nice bumps in Social Security because of inflation. You know, your Social Security goes up every year, we hope. So if you're on Social Security or about to go on Social Security, you can update that on an annual basis. But make sure your Social Security is updated. He also realized that, or she realized that the advisor had informed her that, you know, interest rates has done. Does anybody follow interest rates? What's happened to interest rates over the last 3 or 4 years? Gone up, big time.
Right.
We used to get 1% on 1 year, 2 years, 3 year CDs and treasury bills just a few years ago. 1%. You know, you'd look at your savings account at the bank, what'd it pay? 0.2, 0.5. Do you know, like 6 months ago, you could buy a 1 year CD for 5.5%, 1 year CD. So interest rates have jumped. Now that doesn't sound exciting, but think about something going up 5 times in 2 years, 5 times in value. Think about your house going up 5 times in value. That's what happened to interest rates over the last couple of years. So that helps a money manager create more income from you inside of a portfolio. That's why it's important to meet with your advisor on a regular basis, because they can take advantage of those notes in the bond market like Curtis was saying. She also updated her beneficiaries because she wanted to add a new charity. She was charitably inclined, no children. She had a couple of charities already, and then she was going to pass her IRAs directly to charity, which is pretty common if you don't have family. So she updated her beneficiaries. Now those get done with your advisor because some of you may know this, some may not, but money passes a couple different ways when you die. It can pass to a joint, you know, party like a spouse. But it can also pass by way of beneficiary. So in your retirement accounts, with your 401k and your IRA, your Roth, your regular IRA, you always have to name a beneficiary on those lines. So those assets don't go through your will when you die. They go right, you know, when some people go, oh, I've got that all named in my will. I don't have to update my beneficiary form. No. You have to update your beneficiaries on a regular basis if you want to change it, because the only thing the financial firm looks at on a retirement account when you die, they don't care if you have a will. They don't even care who's in your will. They look at that beneficiary line. The money's going to the beneficiary, and this is really important to get this straight with your advisors if there's a second marriage, okay? Really important, because you may want some of that money to go to your children, not your new spouse, et cetera. So beneficiary designations are a critical update on a regular basis. He reran her retirement model, and it looked very good, okay? Updated Social Security, updated interest rates. Her RMDs were doing nice, and they were going up because your RMD, does every RMD required minimum distribution? It's what you have to take out of your retirement accounts every year by law. You can take more, but you have to take that required minimum. And as your account grows, you know, you get to take out more. Plus, every year you get older, the IRS says you got to take out a little bit more. So her income modeling, like Curtis just ran, her retirement income model looked really good. So first question, you know, good assets, very good income, no debt. She's okay. Big question to answer when you meet with your advisor. Am I going to be okay, like even if I live till I'm 95 or 100? That's really an important question to know so you sleep better at night. Okay, then the estate attorney. We had to go back and visit with the estate attorney. Power of attorney was aging rapidly and just got over breast cancer. The healthcare surrogate, same person. Her personal rep that she named in her will. So if you think about estate planning, there's usually a will, and Shelley will go into this because she's an estate attorney. There's a will. That's like where your personal things can go, or your assets if you don't have a trust. And you have to name somebody to run your will when you die, because you're dead, of course, and that's called your personal representative or executor in the will. And that person will take over, get some legal documents when you die, and it basically lets the courts, everybody know, and the financial firms that this person is now in charge of your financial life because you have died. Okay, so the personal representative was that person, and so they needed a new one. Okay. Her friend was also a successor trustee named in her living will. Successor trustee means, what if something happens to Denise and she has a stroke or gets dementia and can't function on her own, or she dies, but who's going to take over this trust and be the trustee? That's a successor trustee. And it could be a child that you name. It could be a corporate trustee like Cumberland, and there's reasons to do both. But she had named her friend, and now she's worried about her friend's longevity, so that had to be addressed also, okay? The attorney, after we spoke to the attorney, had a couple calls, and her, we realized that we had some challenges because we needed a new power of attorney, a new healthcare surrogate, and a successor trustee that was, we talked about corporate versus individual, and she goes, this makes total sense. Now I see why Mike sent me to you, because I'm gonna have to use you guys as the successor trustee, because I don't know anybody to be, to handle my trust as an individual. So that's part of the thinking, okay? I'll pause here in a second and go back to the model that we started with. But she realized that she could improve her estate plan significantly by making a few changes. The reason I reached out to Shelley's group here is because they're local and they have a bunch of professionals that are fiduciaries that can do through different roles, because sometimes you will want a non-family member or a non-individual to be there. You want somebody that's going to live longer than you, that's going to be there as a permanent entity, to be a personal representative, a healthcare surrogate, a power of attorney. And there are professional fiduciary groups around Flores. Shelley runs a great group here in this area, and her whole team, many of her team members are here, but they can step in and do those roles when needed, if needed. So it's just a good thing to be aware of, that you can find professionals to do these roles. But one thing that's not acceptable and causes a mess is not dealing with it, okay? And if you're not comfortable naming a child as a power of attorney, a healthcare proxy, or a surrogate, that's totally legitimate. Because Mary brought up a good point. I'm just going to tell you from my own personal experience, that firm that I told you I worked for, that had a bunch of clients that had Alzheimer's, one of the fastest growing areas in our financial services industry is financial elder abuse. People steal money from their older parents all the time. Kids show up out of the blue. Maybe there's a drug habit in their background. Alcohol.
Sorry about after delivery. Is there another way to go through? Basta go soon, kid.
Yeah. The reason some people don't want, because I've seen where people name their family members, and that the family member's a power of attorney. Well, guess the family member loses their job, and here's the for lack of a better term, the deadbeat son who his dad thought and loved him dearly, all of a sudden is down at the bank taking regular distributions of $1,000, $1,500 on a regular basis, and assets start disappearing. And then that's when the other family members, have to hire attorneys and lawsuits start and all that mess. That's a real ugly situation. So if you don't have somebody in your life that you really, really trust as an individual to be a power of attorney, that's a big decision. You should definitely talk to a professional who's done it, because they know the ins and outs of the issue. Because financial elder abuse is rampant in our country. Especially when a spouse dies. Okay, neighbors come over, start looking at the mail, start looking. Oh wow, this guy's got $800,000 in his Fidelity account. Oh wow, my God, I know he's checking account. I have $400,000. I'll go to the bank and get you cash. Joe. I'll go to the bank. You have to give me your debit card. This gentleman has dementia, and he's sitting at home depressed, and his neighbor has his cash card at the bank. It happens all the time. So just be aware. So that's kind of working through the things that she should be thinking about. So going back to this page right here, her financial advisor ran her model, and it looks great. Her retirement model, like Curtis was just showing us, okay? But she needed to make some changes in the estate planning area with her power of attorney, healthcare proxy, healthcare surrogate, I call it proxy, and she had to name a corporate trustee. That's how we got in touch with her, because she didn't have anybody else in her life that she really knew would be a good successor trustee on that trust, okay? So that's how we got involved as a trustee. And like Mary said, when we are named as a trustee, we're a different model. We're called directed trustee. We're directed by the family to work with the advisors of that family's choice. So the family comes to us and says, we have Advantage Retirement managing our money. I've known LP for years. We don't want to lose them. We don't want to send our money to the bank, trust company, Tampa Bay, whatever, Bank of America Trust, all these trust companies. We would rather leave them as the money manager on the trust. We just need a trustee. That's what Cumberland does. We're just the trustee on the trust account, but the account is with Advantage Retirement, or we work with thousands of advisors all over the country. We're in 48 states. We have $9 billion under administration in trust accounts. And we've known that for 25 years. But it's a different model that allowed the advisor to stay intimately involved with the family to know the big picture of what's going on. Okay, that's the situation with the corporate trustee. Real quick, to wrap it up, the changes that were made. She named a professional fiduciary as a POA. Shelley's group helped jump in, thankfully, has helped out in a great manner, great meetings. The healthcare surrogate, the same thing. Personal representative in her will, they could function in that role. And she named Cumberland as her successor trustee in her trust. Now that could be while she's alive. These are some of the details to be aware of. If you have a trust account, mom and dad might be the trustee right now, individuals. Mom or dad dies, now you have one. Maybe mom doesn't want to deal with it, maybe dad doesn't want to deal with it, maybe one of you has a medical issue or cognitive decline, and the kids go, we can't have dad running the $1 million trust anymore because he doesn't know where his car keys are. And so you would maybe name a corporate trustee there to step in and be the successor while that person is still alive. So that's still an active trust account. But then when they die, a whole new situation is created where that money has to go into what's called an administrative trust. I don't want to go in the weeds there, but think about if assets in a trust, and then the living trust, and then both the beneficiary, the parents die. Now the money's got to go out to the other parties that were named in that trust. It could be charity, it could be the adult children, but that takes the function of a trustee to step in and do that type of work, okay, on that trust. So there's good reasons to use a corporate trustee, but you could also use a co-trustee or a family trustee. I mentioned at the bottom, when an individual dies on a living trust, that trust becomes an administrative trust. Think about it. Has anybody in here been named to be an executor or a personal rep and gone through an estate process? Okay, so you know the details that we're talking about. It's a lot of work. You know, you're getting all these documents from the court. You got to make sure that all the financial firms are contacted. You need all sorts of death certificates. It's a lot of work, but that's administrative type work to get the assets out where the party intended them to go. The parents wanted them to go. Okay. All right, last thing I want to point out, any questions on all of that? So lots to throw at you, yes.
So if you are named a corporate trustee, say the spouse has dementia, is there an annual fee for that?
Yes, we charge a fee to be just the trustee.
Okay.
So the money manager has a fee, and we split those fees apart. Like if you go to the bank, and the bank says, yeah, we'll be your trustee on this account for 1.5% per year to be the trustee.
So it's about 1.5.
No. We split that fee apart because the money manager is doing some. They just quote you a fee to be a trustee, and the bank is the money manager and your trustee in that scenario. We're the opposite of that model. So we say keep your money manager, your asset, your financial advisor. They're going to charge a money management fee, but we start on the first 5 million. We're at 0.6% per year to be a trustee. And we can get your pricing details if you ever need it as you go through your planning process. On larger trusts, we come down, we got trusts that are 0.25, 0.2. So we split that trustee fee that you would hear at a bank apart. We're very transparent. So we want you to realize what the money managers charge it as a fee. You should know that. And what the trustee would charge. Okay, but there is a fee to do trustee services. And good question, not until we become the trustee. So many families name us to be the successor trustee that I was just talking about. So mom and dad are the trustees on their $2 million trust right now. All their assets are in this trust, or a lot of them. And they're the trustee. They're not charging a fee to themselves. They legally could, but they don't. So they're managing the trust or doing the distributions. It's their money, basically. But when they die, they need a successor to step in. Or if one of them dies, they want a successor to step in because they don't want their children to keep battling each other, and they want a successor down the road. But we would not charge a trustee fee until we become the trustee in that situation. Okay? Some people think if I name us in a document, well, you start charging a fee, but no, not till somebody has to die for us sometimes to step in. Okay? Last points at the bottom. It's really important to understand how details matter. It's crazy things to think about, but, I always tell people, remember when the airplane came down and crashed on 75 last year? You think, well, I'm not going to die. Everyone thinks they're not going to die, and you've all seen it, tragic sudden deaths. You never know when you're going to die. So important things are, and Shelley's group goes through this type of, intake information, like who are your doctors? Who are your neighbors? Who are your key friends? Where, how's somebody going to get in your house? Where are the house keys? These are all things that an advisor or an attorney could keep or but you just have to have this documented somewhere. So I call it my what if I die file, and I go through it with my wife every 6 months. She's bought a handgun since I showed her this file. So anyways, no, she if I get killed on 75 at a car wreck, I don't want her to totally stress out and not know where it's. So it's like phone passwords, credit card accounts. How do you log into your investment accounts? What are your passwords? How do you get on your phone mail to answer email and text? Who's the landscaper? If you have a nice house and somebody dies and you're single, crazy things. That house, the yard has to be mowed and kept up. But these are things that you don't think are important, but they're very important. Shelley would attest this. When somebody dies, you wouldn't believe, some of the challenges that we go through as financial advisors.
I have a quick thing again, and then I don't want to be, but
No.
in our situation, our family, my stepdaughter, one of her in-laws became incapacitated, like immediately.
Yeah.
They went crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't know who paid the bills, where this or that.
Nope.
And we had gotten a book from a financial planner years ago. We just let it sit.
Yeah.
She came over and she said, I want you to fill that out.
Yep.
And we found out crazy things, like, where are the keys to the house in Florida? My husband said, in the birdhouse, in the garage.
Yeah.
I don't even know where the keys were, the safety deposit box. I mean, it was crazy and we had to put all our passwords, how we paid all our bills. Yeah. And it was really a very useful book.
It is. And this show is for as an ilk. It is. You just don't think about it, but if
All our bank accounts, our passwords.
how so the
We want notified when we move along.
It is. Thanks for saying that. I mean, it's incredibly challenging with some of you guys suddenly because you got to find everything. And like another key issue, I'll end with this, unless you have questions, is I've done so much retirement planning over the years. Years ago, our parents and grandparents raised us, they were Depression era, like, our grandparents, et cetera, right? And what happened during the Depression? Financially, the big thing. What happened? Well, a lot of banks failed, right? Banks failed. So our grandparents learned that if you have $500 or $600, you go put $200 in 3 different banks, right? For safety. That concept was transferred to your parents and probably to you. That don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, I met with so many clients over the years that had $2 million of Fidelity, $2 million of Schwab, $2 million of Vanguard, and I said, why do you have all these accounts? They're the same. Why do you have 4 Roth accounts? And they're like, I spread it around, for safety. Listen, I worked for Fidelity for 8 years. They're not going out of business, okay? Bulletproof balance sheet. Consolidate your assets. I tell you, with an advisor, you only really need one IRA, one Roth IRA, and a brokerage account, and maybe a trust account. Consolidate your assets because somebody is going to have to deal with that money someday. And you got to go get a bunch of death certificates, and you got to find the accounts, and you got to do all this paperwork. Consolidate your assets with your advisor up.
Questions? We'll do questions up. Oh,
So thank you so much. Two quick things. Before our next speaker, I want to mention that thank Bob for our lunch. Thank you.
And if he wants to tell you something,
Yeah. So Cumberland is a unique company. I just joined Cumberland a little over 2 years ago. But because we're always talking to financial advisors and estate attorneys, it was a very good fit for me here in Florida. But our president, so we're up Nashville. We're a Tennessee trust company. Our headquarters is in Nashville. We have about 130 employees in Nashville. And our chairman, his name was Joseph Cressley. If you go to our website, I call him the Warren Buffett of the trust business. He's this elderly gentleman. He still comes to work every day, very nice, jet white hair. Anyways, he's a watercolor artist. So when they were building the company over the last 25 years, he would go out, and at lunch, he would go out into these other cities, Tampa, Miami, all these different in Nashville, and he would take out his pencil, his drawing pad, and he would sketch these beautiful pictures. And then he would go back, and he would paint them. And then the marketing department saw some of these pictures, and they're like, Pepe, we call him Pepe. Pepe, these are phenomenal, And so they said, let's try to bring some. So we made note cards with his pictures on them, and then we would bring them out to the legal seminars, for all the estate attorneys. And everybody felt, they're like, where are your note cards? Bob, nice to see you. Where are your note cards? So all they want is his art. So his art is very popular. So he does all these beautiful watercolors. But we brought these along. These are luggage tags in case you're traveling or you want to upgrade your luggage tags on your bags. Feel free to take them. They're in the basket over here. But the reason there's pictures on a lot of our marketing material is they're pictures that were literally done by our chairman, Pepe. He's a watercolor artist, and that's how you take care.
And our next presenter is Shelley and her team. So I'm going to let Shelley give an overview of her company, their company, Linda as well, and the team, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to use this as well. I am 5 weeks out of a knee replacement. Anybody else have the pleasure?
Name it.
Oh, it's pretty successful, but it's a little tough. Yeah. Yeah, so you gotta know this side. I'm not going to be up here that long. I would have Linda and Ashley come up. So, thank you, Mary, so much. We really have enjoyed working with Mary, and we work with Bob. I'm an estate planning attorney, as he said, but he knows as much as I do. He's incredibly knowledgeable. He really knows his stuff. So I'm not going to go through anything else that he talked about. So our firm is Fiduciary Associates Senior Advocacy Group. We're focused on lifetime planning. So we're focused on acting as a power of attorney or a co-power of attorney, acting as a healthcare surrogate or a co-healthcare surrogate, and then providing the wraparound life care management services that go with that. As I said, I'm an estate planning attorney. I also was a corporate trustee, which is where I met Linda. And she and I realized no one wanted to be power of attorney. Nobody wanted to be healthcare surrogate. The banks don't want to do it. The attorneys don't want to do it. So there was a real need for those services, and especially when we saw clients that were starting the dementia journey. And just because you're diagnosed does not mean you're incompetent, by the way, and Ashley and Linda can go into that more, but that means you're vulnerable. So I actually am so happy somebody brought up about the women that changed 50. You brought that 50 years. I was brought up by a single parent. She couldn't get a credit card unless my uncle signed, couldn't buy a house. People were constantly trying to take advantage of her as a woman on her own. And I was, as a young child, looking at this, and it just makes me so upset when I see people trying to take advantage of other people. And if you're vulnerable, it's much more likely that you will be targeted like that. So that's sort of how we started this firm. It's a really protective services. But I am going to let Linda and Ashley come up and talk in more detail. And we've got some case studies, just as Bob did, and give you a better idea of what we do. And if you're interested in getting more information, we have these pamphlets on the way out. So thank you.
You don't need.
Flores like, oh, no, she's.
Sit. Okay. You was already down. It's fine. We'll stand.
So, as Shelley said, we met at a bank. We worked at a private banking firm. This is where we met. I was a private banking manager. She was the trust and estate attorney. My job was to get individuals to the trust side. And so we would see individuals coming in that were having challenges, right? We would see instances where people were coming in. We could very clearly see that there were fraudulent things taking place with their account. And they were oftentimes, they weren't strangers, they were relatives, right? So a son who was taking constant advantage of mom and her frailties and her illnesses. And so when we left the bank, people would seek us out. Can you be our power of attorney? Can you be our healthcare surrogate? Can you be our successor trustee? So there's definitely a need for that. As we started building that firm, it was just the two of us, right? A lot of work, people coming in and hearing word of mouth more and more, geez, we could really use your services. Why? Because we started with what's called life care management services. People needed every day-to-day type help with bill pay. As you have said, Bob, someone becomes a widower. We have a lot of widowers that the wives did everything, right? All of the banking, all of the purchasing. So when that spouse dies, they're absolutely lost. They feel like they can't manage anything. They run into depression because they don't know how to manage any of that. So we started building out our team with case managers who can not only help with the bill pay, accompanying individuals to doctor's appointments, finding resources. We are not clinical in nature, so we work with registered nurses, therapists. We bring all of this team in to deal with individuals that need the help. And it was interesting. I was listening to the stories about, you know, when you die, right? The catastrophic thing of when you die, these terrible things happen. You can become incapacitated at any given moment, and it doesn't mean that it's a permanent incapacity, right? It could be something as simple as Shelley, right? She had knee surgery. So if she were by herself, if she were by herself, she's got a husband. But if she were by herself, right, who's in there at that hospital advocating for her during that temporary disability, right, or incapacity, where perhaps she needed to pay taxes or pay bills, watch over her affairs during that time. So as we continue to build out the team, we've got case manager we brought on, or social worker, Ashley, who, you know, really specializes in dealing with individuals on a one-on-one basis. You can tell how you go through a case.
Sure. So like Linda said, I'm a social worker. I've worked in healthcare for 20 years. I've worked primarily with seniors in Southwest Florida for almost 15 years now. So typically when we have a new client, I complete what's called an intake. So I get all your information. I get your emergency contacts, your health information, medication list, you know, everything. So that way I can see how best to help you, what your needs are. Do you have a support system? Okay, you have children. What's your relationship like with your children? Because what I find, so often is that sometimes people are estranged, from their kids. So do you have people in your life that you trust? So if you're wanting to remain in your home, what services do you need? Do you have the financial assets to have those services? So I look at what your goals are, what your wants are, and then how we can implement that. I work with a lot of the hospitals here, so if you have a medical emergency, you can call me. It's 1 a.m. I'm on my way to the emergency room. I'm having this going on. So I'll meet you at the emergency room. I have all your history and information that's right there. I can pull it up, provide it to the providers, and then advocate to make sure that they're following that. Because a lot of times what we find is the hospital, they don't always have accurate information and they leave off medications and things like that. So coming in and advocating for you.
Yeah, and one of the things that we deal with regularly is there's sort of this myth, right? Well, I'm not going to be in my home. I'm going to go into an assisted living facility. Everything's going to be taken care of. There's going to be nursing 24/7, people watching over me, advocating for me. That is not the case, right? So in an assisted living facility, you have the ability to live on the independent side. There's assisted living, and then oftentimes memory care. So on the assisted living side, there are individuals, you do have some resources that you can call upon during the day, but that doesn't mean that they're checking up on you if you just had surgery, right? Are they checking up on you 3 times a day? Are they bringing your medications? Are you getting your medications? Are you taking the appropriate medications? These are all things that we handle for you. As the quarterback, we bring in the appropriate resources to do so. So as Bob was talking about the individuals, the important individuals in your documents, estate planning documents, for example, a lot of people will say my documents are complete. What you need to understand is if you have a husband and wife who are each other's backups, right? That one person becomes incapacitated, is that other person going to be able to take the reins and pay the bills and deal with the financial advisors and the medical situations? Who's that person's backup? You always want to have backups. And that's where we come in. So, Bob and his wife have each other as backup. Something happens to Bob, we're there for Bob's wife. We're there to advocate for her if we're named in those documents as a healthcare surrogate, power of attorney, successor trustee, if those are the roles that need to be fulfilled. But we're those critical people that are not only in the documents, but actually doing the work and handling the affairs for you. So we work with estate planning attorneys. Those are primary referral sources, CPAs, investment advisors. We've had a couple of case studies and everything we want to talk about. One case study in particular is we had an investment advisor. We had a gentleman, single gentleman, has capacity, is vulnerable, might be on the spectrum, and managed to attract a team of fraudsters who presented themselves knowing that he was single, as one wanted to be the driver, one wanted to be the housekeeper, one wanted to be the person who sets all these appointments. Well, the investment advisor very quickly was able to see that they were scamming him out of thousands and thousands of dollars. So they very quickly called us and say, no, so this person needs help. We were able to come in, triage, very quickly assess that these were fraudsters. Shelley was able to get a temporary injunction to be able to stop this team of bad people that were dealing with this gentleman. We were able to work with him. He sold his home in Fort Myers. We moved him to Naples, where we have a case manager, Cheryl, who takes care of him on a regular basis. And we are also his healthcare surrogate, power of attorney, successor trustee. So you can see how we envelop all of the services. And we watch for people. Right now, Ashley, you're working an active case you can tell them about. Sure.
So we had a case that was actually Naples Police Department contacted us about concerns that they had for this lady. Vulnerable female, she lives alone, she's divorced, and multiple hospitalizations. He was concerned, this deputy was concerned that there were some bad actors involved. Come to find out, they presented themselves as friends, we're helping you, we'll take you to appointments, let me pay your bills for you, that's overwhelming, set up online accounts. But the big thing was, this gentleman had gotten her to sign over her house to him, signed a quitclaim deed, so free and clear, her $3 million home is now in that gentleman's name. So, got involved, I was able to work with her attorney, I worked with a detective who, put the fear in that man. And so he was agreeable at the attorney's office to sign the deed back into her name. So we went through and closed that account, her banking account, because that gentleman had access to everything, had closed her credit cards because there were all kinds of charges. I'm sure she had her credit cards in her purse, but clearly somebody had taken pictures of them and had all that information. In the home, her medications were spilled everywhere. In the bedroom, it's just, candy land of pills. So now I have her moved into assisted living where her medications can be managed. We can reduce the hospitalizations. In the past year, she was hospitalized total in about 6 months. And we're working, those that actors are now at the picture. So working to secure her. And she's a very trusting lady.
Very trusting, right? And so, the key with us is we're the boots on the ground, right? Many of you may or may not have children. Relationships may be good or not. There are strange relationships. We're the boots on the ground. So we always hear, well, my daughter lives in California. Well, when you need that person here, they're not going to be here. So oftentimes what you'll see is the estate planning attorney will name us as a co-healthcare surrogate with the daughter. Ashley will be the healthcare surrogate here, boots on the ground. And then she'll communicate on a regular basis with the daughter what's going to, if that's what the client wants, right? That's what the desire is. But there's somebody local, and then there's someone who is out of state, but at least somebody's laying eyes on that person, because we'll tell you when the dementia starts setting in. You can attest to this, right? When you're speaking to people from afar and they concentrate, it's a sunny day or these great, no problems, my health is fine. And you actually go to their apartment or home and you're seeing that they're putting their keys in the refrigerator or the purse in the oven. That's when you know that there's a problem. You see the stack of bills that are unpaid. Utilities are not being paid. We see this so often where premiums on insurance are not being paid. Taxes are not being paid, so now you're in danger of losing your property, right? On a tax levy. So it's the virtual team that takes over not only to do the day-to-day work, but then as oversight. Did you have a question?
Nope.
Oh, great. Any questions?
Could you define the difference between power of attorney and successor trustee?
So successor trustee is if you have a trust. And as Bob said, not everyone needs a trust. Power of attorney basically is the legal ability to act on behalf of someone for financial matters.
We're going to continue this Q&A session with all the speakers. So Curtis, if you want to come up here. And then while they're gathering, please nobody fall off this. Devin and Daniela and our team are going to be handing out a quick survey for you to take. Right, if you're already a client of ours, don't worry. We know your address. So yeah, hard eye, okay? Sarah, yeah. 2 questions on here that I'd like you to answer. Sure, other topics of interest for future one-shoe worries. And then the other one is, what's one goal that you would like to take action on? Okay, so be sure to jot that down, but make a note for yourself too so you remember. And then if you do want to learn more about anything that we've talked about today, we've got a little spot there as well. So I think we're all situated. Let me skip forward. Any other questions? And then R2's going to hand this hour. Thanks. All right.
몰랐다. 그지.
Any questions? I question for the fiduciary associates. Are there just the 2 of you? I think that there's.
There's some of our other team who's back there. So that's Cheryl. She's one of the phenomenal case managers. Lori's in the restroom. Lori Needles, that's fiduciary. She helps with that. She can serve as power of attorney, personal representative, trustee. She does a lot of the bill case services. So Cheryl and I do a lot of that, like care management, stock care, surrogate. This is our state administration, trust administration. That's Lori. Here's Lori. Oh, great.
I am Lori. Why are you talking about me?
Yeah. Diana, you had a question.
Oh, as far as the co-health care, if someone can't come, like, can you do that for us? What's a given time? 6 months? I mean, I know it can be always until death, but and if you have a person like my daughter that's not going to be here right away for maybe triple must, how long do you sign up for something as opposed to our care, that type of things?
You don't sign up. So you would have to be named, right? We've already named in your estate planning documents. So if you think it's a temporary thing, that what you might want to do is consult with your attorney. Correct. And what you might want to do is have your daughter as your first line of defense, right? She's your first, and then we could be your backup. So that, and the way they would do the documents is have us in place, and we could work in concert with your daughter or not. So generally, we work independently. So we want to be able to help you in any and all ways. And then when your daughter comes, then we're second. But at least we're in your documents and we have authority.
Okay, that's a great question. Anything else? Any questions for Curtis on the e-money? Or yes, go down.
I don't know good. I don't know where she went, but can somebody give me just a ballpark figure on a simple will preparation?
So we do have some different estate planning attorneys. We've worked with several in the past, and some of the ones that we're working with now are giving our clients better pricing than what we had exposure to in the past. So depending upon your need, I can give you a referral, and then we can get you the answer to that, okay? So we do have some local and some on the East Coast. Some do more complex, and then there's the gentleman on the East Coast. He does, simple wills and basic information. So I'll get you his contact information. Yes.
And I was going to say, and I just found this out, and I don't know if anybody else knows that, but I have a will in Indiana, and I wanted to change a couple things in that will. My attorney down there is very good. And he told me, he said, Diana, if you change it, now that you're a resident of Florida, someone could come in, step in and say, I don't know about that. He said, I really think if you make any changes to your will, you should get an attorney, you know, or lawyer in Florida. So, and I didn't even realize that. So I don't know anybody else here, but so it's better just to have their resident here to go ahead and bring up or pull up another will. No, I would think. That's what I'm gonna do.
That's a great point. A lot of laws are driven by the state, so it is a great idea. This happens all the time. People moving to Florida, you know, even co-residents, it depends on where your residence is, but you know, a lot of state laws, trust laws, and insurance laws are driven at the state level. So it really is good to talk to because you have other things down there. You have homesteading on property, you know, that are very unique. A ladybird bee, you know, very unique situations in every state. So if you're going to live in Florida, it's good to talk to a Florida attorney. And I'll throw out a number for you, ballpark. You know, I've talked to different attorneys. If you have a real simple situation, it's usually a package. You know, you need a will, healthcare surrogate, and a power of attorney, maybe a living will. I'm just ballparking, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 maybe in a package situation. If you have more complex situation, you know, dual marriage, you want to do both, you know, you might be $2,000 or $3,000. If you need the trust and all that, you just talk to the attorney and they'll give you a quote.
Do you guys have any behind-the-scenes stories you can share about financial fraud? See, we and ourselves.
By 5%. No. Oh, I'll jump in. Excuse me for being rude. It's, I'm telling you, elder financial abuse is one of the fastest rising crimes in our country. Never respond to somebody. And my mother-in-law got tricked. I mean, we had clients that were very bright people that had millions of dollars in their accounts get tricked. It's because they, two things, phishing scams, you really want to pay attention to emails and not respond or ever click on something from, because they make these emails look so good now. You think it's Bank of America emailing you, you know, your account has been jeopardized. Please click on this link. We need to verify some stuff. You click on that link, they're inside of your computer right now. I mean,
But how do you know if it's true or not?
well, you can call that. You can call that. Like I get calls from Citibank. You know, we have a joint Citibank card. I get calls from Citibank. You know, quote unquote, they call it, or emails, text. Your card has been. You know, somebody's trying to put $3,000 on your card. Click on this link right now. No, get your statement on the call the vendor number on the firm and say, did this happen in my account? And they'll go, no, we're getting calls all day long as a fraudster. No. So email was phishing. They're trying to get you to click on links so they can get inside your computer. And then they'll say, okay, please enter your social security number to verify account. Please enter your email. Please enter your password. They just took over an account. I mean, that's how good they are.
So maybe this would be a good election topic for next time of that. But because I just recently got one. This is December. Everybody's expecting packages, and then I got a message with the packages.
Amazon.
UPS, the mail, you know, it happens all the time. And then the big one, 400, we had a client, 400, be careful. The power of attorney question was a great question. If you don't have a trust, you don't need a successor trustee. If you have a trust, you would want to know who's going to step in and be the backup if somebody dies. But power of attorney is such an important role because of the potential for abuse there. Somebody can go down to the bank and sign your name. They can use, you know, get into your checking account. They can write checks and sign for you. And we had a client, a mom, her husband died, mom had $2 or $3 million. The nice son came in to help her manage everything. And $400,000 he took out of an account that she didn't know about. And why did he do it? This was, we were in Rochester, New York. He wanted to go into a group to buy a ski mountain in Vermont. And so he flunked $400,000 into a business venture. And they had 3 warm winters in a row at this in Vermont, and the ski venture, you know, went downhill quickly, no pun intended. And they all went bankrupt. He lost. We uncovered this $400,000 out of his mom's account. Didn't tell the brothers and sisters. The mom started asking questions. I'm just telling you, you know, it's crazy what's going on in our country.
You need to be very vigilant.
You do. You really got to watch your statements.
Monitor your credit reports. It is, yeah, as you said, a whole seminar could be done on that. But vigilance, and if you see, you know,
This is the proverbial, if you see something, say something, let your neighbors, Don't be afraid to report it. Don't be afraid to report it. Better that someone go out and investigate and refer to the appropriate authorities than not to say something and let someone go down that rabbit hole. It's especially with some of the clients that we deal with at their age, things are not recoverable. So another situation we're working right now, someone's assets have been frozen for months. She couldn't even go to the store to get milk because the bank, it's a good thing, sort of, they froze her assets because they could clearly see that there was fraud going on. She was being abused, but then she couldn't pay for anything. So we're in the picture now. We have her power of attorney. Lori was able to work with the banks and the investment advising company to ensure that those monies were unfrozen because they can see that there's a person with you afforded that can help this person and advocate, and you watch over from that.
I also think too that somebody might want to share. I also think too that a lot of the siblings in your family, Barb was my mother's executors of the will and POA, and they really think it's some big thing, and it's really not. I mean, if why were you the chosen one? But I really think too that POA should share with the siblings always what's going on because they do feel left out. And then at that time, I know we think it's our children or our sisters and brothers, but they can start contesting things, and then it can really get into a big fight, really, and there should have never been one. So I just think that's a big thing. My question: can you name two dual?
Yes, people. For power of attorney or to, yes, absolutely, as a blended family.
And I wasn't comfortable with it. Yep. So his daughter, my daughter, we had both listed.
Yeah, and again, depending on your comfort level, right? And
So I even
people,
trusted the attorney, and he said that was fine to do it that way. Is there a downside to that?
there can be, and again, that's something you'll stuff that they're break. But there are instances where, yes, right, you'll have butting heads if they can't come to an agreement on something. That might pose a problem. So you kind of have to know the personality of individuals. Anytime you're dealing with money, you don't know anybody's personality.
That will try to sell it up. As Jen is defiant to oversee it, I thought it best to have two daughters.
So is it true that if you have power of attorney, and you're one person, executors, they'd be worse. One person cannot act unless the other one. What if they're unavailable? What if they're out of town? What if? So you kind of, in my opinion, and you guys correct me if I'm not, are tying the hands of the other person and making it more difficult. Is that clear both arm?
Well, power of attorney ceases upon your death.
Yeah, the successor,
That's a different story. Yeah.
that's where I cooked the two girls.
So again, these are legal questions, but you would want your attorney to put verbiage in the documents that would allow for, maybe they confirm, maybe there's voting of some sort, but you can have two POAs. You can absolutely have two POAs, and again, it depends on the verbiage in the document. How does that work?
Or do they have to?
Well, independently, separately, if you have somebody that's kind of wonky and you're not sure what their intentions are, you're going to want another person overseeing that, right? So these are all legal questions that totally out of my lane, but.
And in trust world, if you have a trust, you can name co-trustees. That's very common. So you have a child, a responsible child, and maybe a corporate in case something happens to the child. So they're going to be co-trustees, and they have to act together. But then trust language many trusts will have, here's how we're going to break the tie, okay? And maybe there's a trust protector in there or somebody like that that's going to break the tie. The tie being like, I want my co-trustees to act together and make the same decision, and they both have to decide and agree. Well, what if they don't agree? Like we're just talking about, right? What are they? So you got to have this tie-breaking concept involved if you have dual. But yeah, some cats, that's what I just want, right? Yeah.
Well, I think you will all agree that this has been very informative, and I want to thank our
Okay, parting things, we're going to stick around if you want to talk to anybody. Also, they have their
information over there, like a brochure, the walk folder. There's all on the books, and then the gift bag. Be sure to drop this off in the table there. And gosh, I look forward to seeing you all at our next one. But feel free to linger and leave your trash in your spot. We'll take care of that. Okay. So thank you all for coming.